What's cool about the link that I just started, or the podcast I just started, you don't need to go there right now, but let me show you where it's at. So we're in week 1 module. In week 1 module, there's a podcast document. Here's the actual podcast right now. This link here is the one we're doing right now. It's actually streaming live on YouTube. And so we'll have an in-class one of the desktop and my voice. The other podcast is generally used for pre-class kind of material to watch. So if you have a few minutes to do that, you don't have to watch it all, just kind of forward fast through stuff. It's fine. Whatever is fitting for you, is comfortable for you. So I want to first of all go over Eagle, if that's okay. Those of you have been here before on campus, raise your hand. You've been here before? Yeah, just for everyone. I know who you are, but maybe other people don't. Great. You've been on campus before. You've taken other classes before. There's a new feel now for Eagle, which I think for the most part, I like the changes. I think for the most part, I like the fact that you can, you know, they have their dashboard, or you can color code your screens here, your different classes. I can click on this pencil and select a different color for it. So they have dashboard, courses, calendar, and inbox. The calendar or the courses are going to show you all the courses you're enrolled in. The calendar is going to show you all of the assignments that instructors have put in there for your courses will show up on the right. Also, will show up within the calendar itself of globally of all of your courses. If you go into our course, I'll go into our course here. The one I like, and I have liked for Eagle for a while, the view I tell students to look at week 1 is the syllabus view. The syllabus view will give you a breakdown of all due dates by when they're due. Now, week 1 has a tons of stuff, but it's a lot of little stuff, like really small stuff you just got to do. Like maintenance type of stuff we have to get done. And we'll go over that. But you'll notice it slims down starting in week 2. You're going to have an assignment, a discussion assignment, and an in-class assignment every week. The in-class assignment will be the one I talked about earlier, which is after the discussion. We'll break for a minute if you guys want to. A lot of times in this class, students just want to keep going. That's fine. And by the way, before I forget, restrooms in this room, in this building, when you leave the classroom, the women's to the right here, men's to the left. Now, I've not been out here for about 3 weeks. Is the pop machine still out in the foyer? Where'd they put those? Anybody know? Or water? Don't know? I'll find out. But they used to be out in the foyer, the pop machines. They might have moved them out further, pop or water. I do allow both. On the door there, it says to have a bottle of water with a cap on it. Well, if you keep your cap on pop, it's the same. So as long as you keep your cap on it, I'm fine with it. And I always tell students, I always do this. I'll put my bottle on the floor, like next to your, leg or in front of you or something like that, way to knock it over. So each week we'll have the in-class assignment. The homework assignment is this assignment one here. And then discussion is kind of a recap question. It's kind of a subjective question about what we went over. And a lot of them are like, what do you think about this? What ideas do you have about how this can be used? Like, for instance, like a button, how can it be used? Or settings in an app, how can that be used? And then you just give your ideas. And in the discussion, you can see each other's answers to where it's a kind of a group collaborative function where you I don't want everybody kind of in a silo, because in developer world, some of you are developers already, you're working with a group of people all the time. So, and they don't actually necessarily even have to be in your field to help you, if that makes sense. All right. So a lot of times if you get stuck on things, I know myself, I'm a full-time developer during the day at a firm here in town. I do Windows developing and mobile app developing, both. But there's tons of times I've had, the networking guy help me with an issue because he can think logically and break down problems. And sometimes I might look at something for, hours, and he look at it and go, hey, did you try this? I'm like, no. So, and then try it and it works. And so that's the reason I have you guys look at discussions, because you're going to see different points of view. You guys all come from different walks of life, and it's going to help everybody by having it open like that. Everything's due by Sunday as far as assignments and the discussion. In class, we do that night unless otherwise told. I think week 3, which is 2 weeks from tonight, the campus is closed. We're still having, that week is going to be just like a normal week, but I'll be having everything online for you to watch that week, and we'll kind of go over that in a second. So we'll just kind of mentally make note of that. 2 weeks from tonight, don't show up to campus because it's closed. But to get stuff done and to get through content, we really can't afford to not have class that week. So I'm going to still have class, but we'll do it online through podcast or something. So went over the syllabus. That's one I definitely recommend viewing. Announcements each week. I try to post an announcement Monday morning. This one I'd already done last week, so I didn't do it just today. It's just an introductory welcome to the course. Each week I'll post something of what we're going over that week, nothing real detailed, just an overview kind of thing for you to look at. I generally try to email everybody as well, which I think I emailed everybody prior to class today of what we're going over this week. Mentioned the QR code and some other things. Discussions, I won't click on it. We'll show you all the discussions throughout the semester. Grades will show you your grades as I grade them. Since things are due on Sunday, I try to have all this stuff graded for this class by that Wednesday. So stuff that's due this Sunday, I'll have graded by Wednesday. And after I update the grades on all my classes, in each class, I'll email the entire class and just say grades have been updated. Okay. Now, if you're not familiar with Eagle already, we'll go over some helps for you. But one of the features Eagle has is notifications. And you can turn on or off notifications, kind of like your phone notifications at your discretion. So if you are a pretty good time manager of your schedule, you can basically turn off all schedules within Eagle, which is done in the settings area. But I'll talk more about Eagle training in just a second. People will have access to the students in class. You guys have some rights you won't have to see, like I can see. Pages, go over all of the pages for the course. By default, though, it's just going to give you the home page. Files, you don't really need to go into that, but it's basically all the files that are in the course over the time since spring 2013. There'll be files in there, so you can go in there and if you're bored, you want to go in there and see what you can get into. You can. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to hurt anything. Modules. This one, the module view, is a nice view in Eagle if you want to view things in a linear fashion, because it'll show like all course documents, and you can collapse it and then go into week 1, week 2, so on and so forth. And if you see the green check box on something, it's published. If it's not green like that, it's unpublished. And I try to make sure the first few weeks here, I think everything's published. But if you find something, which could happen, that you can't get to of that current week, just let me know. Don't feel bad. Let me know. Just immediately email me. Tell me, hey, can't get into that, because that does happen sometimes. So module view, some of you might like to view it. Conferences, you don't really need to go into that. Collaborations, nah. Attendance, we're not using that. SCORM, we're not using. Settings, this goes back to your notifications and things of that nature, and yours is going to look a little different than mine. So that's a real quick overview of Eagle. The last thing I'll mention before we go into week 1 task is inbox. That's where you're going to check your email just for this course, okay? And all the other courses, I'm sorry, for Eagle. This isn't RVC email, though. RVC email where I sent your QR code is totally separate. And I do recommend checking that both once a day at least would be helpful. Okay, so in week 1, in the home page, We're going to go over some content here at the top and then go right into the new student section. Periscope will be using specifically only for TechScope Tuesdays starting next week. It's where basically I interview students, faculty, administration, local businesses, programmers, and talk for 15 minutes about tech stuff, basically. And so if you're already on Periscope, you just need to add me and follow me, basically, is all you got to do. And the steps are how to do that on that link. Course navigation, I'm not going to go over that. You can click on that. It just shows you basically what I went over already. Syllabus launches the generic syllabus for this course. It's not really specific on anything. It's kind of an overview. Open lab times. That one will be updated tomorrow morning with all the lab times this is open. And what I've tried to do is every semester for this course, if there's not a class in here, I try to get it reserved for you guys, because there's some of you don't have Macs, and so these are your Macs basically for you to use, and you can survive in this class without having a Mac at home for sure, definitely. Now, if I was to recommend, if you're like, what should I buy if I'm interested or really want to do it, mid-semester, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm going to do this. I would suggest a Mac Mini because it's a much slower price point. You can get them like on Apple's website, refurbed or even new, anywhere between $350 and $550. And it's comparable to a PC, a low-end PC. And so pretty reasonable. A lot of students aren't aware of Mac Minis. You can hook them up to your flat screen at home and then hook, to a keyboard and mouse wirelessly, or you can hook it up to your existing keyboard, mouse, and monitor at home and get a KVM box to switch it between the Mac Mini and your PC box. But if you need help with any of that, I can help you with that for sure. There is a way, by the way, to install Mac OS on Windows laptops if you have an Intel processor and the laptop's within a couple years old. I can help you get it installed on VMware, and I'll be scheduling like a Saturday here in the next couple of Saturdays to come in and help you do that if you want to do that. Last semester, I think I did 3 or 4 students did that option with their laptop and worked fine. And so if you've never used a virtual operating system, that's what it is, but you can run Mac OS on your Windows machine. And so if you're interested in that, we'll schedule that here in the near future to help you. Facebook and Twitter, this goes to our course, Facebook and Twitter iOS course. You can follow that. We'll be posting starting this week some stuff. Live chat. If you click on this one, it'll ask you to put in your name and then continue. And so I'll just put in here like chat. And what it's going to do on the next screen is you put in your question. It prompts me immediately if I'm online. And even if I'm not online, it'll alert me to say, do you want to help the student? And so right now it says I'm not logged in, so I'm not going to help you. But you can try it. Just so you know, off class session, like Monday night after I leave, I turn it on immediately. Tuesday, all day until like 7 p.m. it's on. Wednesday, all day until like 8 or 9 p.m. it's on. Like 8 in the morning, 9 p.m. Thursday, 8 in the morning to 5 it's on. And then a lot of times on the weekends I'll have it on too. So if you have a quick question, you can try that first. If you can't get me there, you can email me. If you do want to schedule a office meeting with me or an online meeting, I can do both. You can click on this link to schedule a meeting. And what it's going to do is show you the available office hours. So say you have open Thursday and you can meet me at 6 o'clock. You just click confirm, put your information in, and you've got that time slot for 15 minutes to discuss with me whatever it is you need help with. Snapchat, we began posting last semester Snapchat stories of events coming up for the division. I know for this division, real quick, we have this Saturday, which is already sold out, the Hour of Code, which we've been promoting. There's an Hour of Code event the 4th Saturday of every month in this lab that teaches the public basically about computer science, demystifies computer science. If any of you want to help me with that and volunteer, it's 1 hour. This Saturday is the first one. And I just have you kind of walk around and give handouts out and help people. We have kids from 6 years old to grandpas 90 years old show up. It's kind of cool. There's like 20 people cramming here for an hour. And we teach them, I'll show you. You can grab one of these when you leave tonight. But you use a drag and drop coding, like this one's on Angry Birds. And it's drag and drop blocks, basically code. A lot of colleges are using now for beginning CIS students, or actually any computer science student. And so, but basically it's an hour, and at the end of it, they actually create a little app. They send it to themselves. They can play it on their phone or iPads. So kind of really good. What's funny is a lot of times parents will bring their kids and just kind of stand back and watch them. And then they'll come back to the next one and they'll go, hey, after we left that Saturday, we went home and actually did that for like 2 hours with our kids as a family thing. So that's kind of cool. And so if you're interested in helping me volunteer for Hour of Code, definitely see me before you leave and I'll hook you up, or you can just show up. If you do follow us on Facebook and Twitter on my CIS, and also just follow us on the links there and follow us on Facebook and Twitter, I push it kind of after the first month, which is kind of cool. And so if you click on New Student, and we're going to go to week 1, it'll go right to week 1. I'm not going to read everything here, just kind of overview it. If you need help with training for Eagle, there's a link to get help. Course navigation syllabus is in there again. Between now and next Monday, I do need you to register a new Apple ID with your RVC student email. If you've already done this before, that'll still work, okay? So some of you have already done that before. Once you've, and this is crucial here, if you don't want to use a credit card, there is a way to set up your Apple ID to not use a credit card and just get free apps and stuff. You can follow the steps on that link. I'll show you how to do that. And number 4, if you do have a Mac, the latest version of Xcode is what I'm recommending, 7.3.1 for El Capitan, 10.11.5 version on the Mac. And I put it in red. If you don't have a Mac at home, you'll be fine. We have Macs on campus you can use to complete all assignments, and lab times will be posted by next week. When you, number 5, there's a whole bunch of bookmarks, or a few bookmarks of websites you'll need to bookmark for the course. Some of it we use for online reading. Some of it is my website of different examples. Like us on Facebook, Twitter, Periscope, follow us. And then other social media I'd recommend you following is myself on Twitter, CIS280, which is our division handle, and then myself on Snapchat for Division of Tech News. Questions on that? Okay, cool. Let me switch to the slides here. So we're going to go over Swift Playground in just a second, and variables, and kind of get you started with that tonight. You'll get to kind of get your hands wet in Swift real quick. So what is iOS? Glad you asked. It is the most popular mobile app development to date right now. Even though Droid has tons of more phones than iOS as far as in people's hands, as far as developing world, it's where developers make the most money in iOS. And companies, if they're going to develop an app first, develop an iOS. The reason for that, you probably already know, is there's so many different flavors of Droid out there that it's hard for developers to invest a lot of money in an app that they're literally going to have to go as kind of the lowest common denominator of versioning for Android to get it to work on all the phones. Does that make sense? And so they're not going to be able to use the coolest tools and tips, coolest tools and features of the newest Android OS. So that's why iOS is kind of, where developers kind of make their bread and butter right now. That's not to say, though, you shouldn't learn Android because you should. I've learned Android and developed an Android as well. It's not a real hard language to learn. If you learn Swift, you can self-learn Android. We have offered Android here on campus the last couple of years, I know. It just says numbers haven't went. But if you want to learn Android, I do have tons of resources to help you to learn it yourself. Definitely. It's worth doing it. In fact, one of the Saturday labs we do is an Android app I do on Martin Luther King video, loading it in a free Android development platform. And so what do you need to begin developing apps? I've already talked a little bit about that, but we'll talk more in a second. And then what dev languages do you need, skill-wise? So the word iOS, you've heard, and it's basically the I operating system, the Apple operating system for mobile. And Mac OS is the operating system for the Mac laptops, desktops, and such, Mac Minis as well. But the iOS is the operating system from Apple's mobile devices, both iPad, iPhone, and then the other montage of generations of iOS out there. 20 million devices, I think it's at 250 million right now, running iOS 6. Now we're at iOS 9, but in iOS 6, after just a month of releasing iOS 6, 200 million devices were running. The average time for people to get the newest version of iOS is like about 2 to 3 months. So when you get the latest version that comes out, within 2 or 3 months, like 75, 80, 90% of iOS users have updated to that new version. Because there's really no reason why they shouldn't. They might hold off for a bit, but I know like most people do like just auto updates on them now, where it just auto updates the 3 in the morning or something. And I think that's a lot of reasons why it's that way. 700,000 apps, it's like about 850,000 right now. That's an older stat, including about 375,000 iPad apps out. We're at the 50 million to date right now, 50 billion apps from the App Store. And then this number is about a year and a half old. This $6.5 billion dollars been paid to Apple developers. This is a new screenshot. I try to do this each week because one of the reasons you're here is to learn not only app development, but maybe eventually you might publish some apps to the App Store. I have like 7 apps on the App Store between iOS and Android. And it's kind of fun to do. Most developers, though, most students, I tell students this the first night, most developers don't put apps on the App Store when you're doing it for a living. Like I've done tons of apps locally for businesses that would never make the App Store because they don't want it on the App Store. It's just for their company, like Starbucks, Sears, JCPenney. These all have apps that employees use for whatever, inventory, logging in, sales, whatever. But they're never going to make the App Store. And I would say 75 to 80% of developers that make a living developing, it's probably higher than that, probably 90%, don't make their money off the App Store. They make their money off of working for companies, developing apps for that company. That makes sense. But, it's cool to put an app on the App Store. I'm not saying it's not. One of the first ones I put out was with my grandson and I. His name's Jaden. He was getting ready for church one Sunday or something, and he was doing his hair, like kids do. And he's at that age where, he's really wanting to make sure every hair's in place, right? And so he had all these different styles of hairs that he's wanted, hairdos. And mom and dad wouldn't let, like most parents, certain hairstyle they want. But, grandpa lets him do basically anything he wants. And so I said, Jay, you can do your hairstyle you want to. And so we started talking about hairstyles. He said, yeah, some kids might like my hairstyle. And I said, well, why don't we make an app? So we brainstormed, and, he didn't do any of the coding part, but he posed for pictures, and we created an app on the App Store called J Styles, where people can take a picture of their face, swipe through hairstyles, which I'll show you here in a few weeks when we go through some apps. But that was the first app that him and I created. It was kind of cool, kind of a family thing we did. But here's some top paid apps. And the reason I show you the top paid and top free is to kind of let you know of kind of what's out there. There's some new stuff that pops up every once in a while. But Minecraft's the #1 app on the paid apps. If you've never played that before, in iOS world or even Android world, you're kind of in a minority because even my grandson Jaden, he loves Minecraft. He's created like 17 worlds in Minecraft in the last 2 months. It's crazy. If you've never played it, recommend it. Emoji Maker, I've not played that one. I guess create emojicons. Heads Up, that's Ellen Show, producer of the Ellen Show, or Ellen herself had the idea for this one. It's a fun app. If you've never played that, it's available for iPad and iPhone. You guys ever played Heads Up before? It's awesome. And I think it's available for Droid as well. You can play it. And it just lets you put your phone or your iPad up to your head, and people have to guess what's on the screen, basically, is what it is. You have so many seconds per session. Reigns is a new game on the block. Not played that one, but I've heard it's a good game. Plague, that's a really popular game on simulated plagues and how fast they could sweep the world. Facetune, Endless Ducker, Geometry Dash, Bloon, Warm Light, Manual Camera, Monopoly, and Game of Life. Those are the top 10 paid apps. Free apps, Bitmoji Keyboard. It's where you actually have every key on your keyboard is a Mojicon, basically, for that one. Flip Diving, iTunes U. We use that this semester in here, which we'll talk about in a second. Google Maps, Snapchat, Messenger, Facebook, YouTube, Pokemon. Anybody do Pokemon Go? You like it? You done pretty well? Yeah. Just make sure to look up when you're walking. We did have, maybe not funny the kids happened to, but here on campus we did have 2 students that fell into construction over there by the new nursing building into like a shaft, like a 5-foot shaft. Thankfully they weren't hurt. There was just gravel at the bottom of it, but it could have been rebar or something that could have really hurt them. So, you guys have heard horror stories too, so just be careful. But, what's cool about it, myself, I've been getting into, lost like 20 pounds over the summer, and really, I've heard for exercise, people have lost a lot of weight because they're walking more. They're using the app and actually getting out and doing stuff. So that's kind of a cool thing. But just kind of make sure. I think they have on the new. I played it once, on campus when it first came out, just to kind of see what it was out. I think there's tons of stuff out now. But I think I opened it up last weekend. They got tons of new warnings on there, like red letters. Please watch where you're going, and look up and all this stuff. So just recommend watch where you're going, but also. Don't go to a park at 2:30 in the morning by yourself. That's not a good idea. Anywhere in the world, not just Rocker, but anywhere. Don't do that. Uber. Anybody used Uber before? I used it a couple times here over the summer. It was pretty cool. What's different about Uber is my son got me hooked on it because he travels a lot. Is when you use the app, right? And I was kind of reluctant because I'd never used it before. I was in Kansas City, just got off. I was at the terminal, fired up Uber. And you get to see the cars around you. And I wanted kind of the XL kind of car, a bigger car, kind of SUV type you can pick. And you see the driver, tap the driver, and immediately see the reviews of that driver, kind of what people have said about this person. But then as soon as I accepted that's who I wanted, within like 5 seconds, I got a call. It was like 1 in the morning. And I was standing on the edge of the sidewalk. And I was like, my name's Chuck Conkle, need a ride. He goes, I see you. You stay right there. Boom. Just pulled right up, popped open the back thing, I sat in the back seat, and you complete the transaction on the phone before you leave. So I had to go to Kansas City Airport. And so before I left the location there, the transaction was complete because I was like, I'm ready to go. And he goes, you didn't complete the transaction. I said, this is my first time. You have to kind of help me here. And so he said, well, you just need to, confirm that you complete the transaction. Because they don't want no money changing, which you'd have to do in cabs and things like that, which I'm used to taking. Got to the place, dropped me off. And one thing I felt bad about was I didn't know this till afterwards. You can tip them. You can tip them like you normally would any cabbie. But I didn't tip the guy. I did on the way back. But the experience was a lot nicer than a cab. I mean, it was like really a lot nicer because I've heard horror stories about Uber. I've heard the YouTube videos of the people having, nightmare horror stories, which I'm sure they have, but I was pretty impressed with it. One of the cool things I mentioned about Uber is, I don't know if you saw the news last week, one of the car manufacturers is creating a vehicle for Uber that's going to be self-driven. It's going to be, autonomous driving, basically. And so you'll pick the Uber car, it'll drive to you with no driver, pick you up and take you where you need to go. Now that'll be another step of faith, maybe that one, but that's kind of cool. I think we're getting there eventually, but anyway, so those are the top 10 apps, top 10 free and paid apps. Here's some apps that fall 2015 students have created. One of the things I have students do in this class, starting week 12, you get to begin working on your app full time to present week 15. And you can actually start working on it now, you know, week 1 or 2 or 3, an app idea, and present it to the class. But Book You, a Book You seller, an app to buy, sell, barter textbooks. Golden Chopsticks Buffet. This student actually family owns this restaurant here in town. I think it's over near McChesney. Basically allows people to view the restaurant app at their fingertips and kind of zoom in and stuff like that. Movie File. This one's to keep track of your inventory of movies, both disc. You know, we have like different hard discs around the house. Some of us do, so anyway. Kind of figure out where they're at. You know, well, Joe borrowed it, or, you know, Jim borrowed this one or whatever, and kind of figure out where it's at. Commingle ensures your airsoft paintball team has effective means of communication through every step of the game. Beer Logger. This was a kind of cool idea, is able to keep all kinds of beer you try, take a picture of the bottle, rate it, list the country, description, what you like, dislike about alcohol content, be able to track and remember which beers you've tried, where you bought it, and if you liked it or not. Cool idea. Count Your Chickens. This was a financial tracking app that allowed you to continuously see how much money you have to earn or spend. You can tie it to like your bank account, PayPal, and then it'll alert you of any changes. So paying bills, conducting PayPal transfers, budgeting. Road Fixes, designated to allow road users to report any issues disrupting traffic. So like potholes, non-working traffic lights. You can report it to the city. Home, when you're connected at home on your home network, the app will put your phone in sound mode. You can unlock it with no passcode. It can work in the other places too. If you're at school or work and you're connected to the school network or work network, it can put your phone on silent and ask for passcode to unlock it. This student here, I still helping him with this app. He's at the final stages of releasing it. It's Pallet Counter. His dad's a truck driver, over-the-road truck driver, and be able to take a picture of the back of the truck, a semi-truck, and determine from just a picture how many pallets you can fit in that truck. So if there's already some in there or not, with this app, be able to tell visually from the app, be able to calculate how many pallets can go in there, both, you know, this way and that way, both. So in this classroom, we'll be using El Capitan, Mac OS 10.11.5, Xcode 7.3.1. And again, if you don't have a Mac, you're going to be fine. Developer license, you will need to sign up for, but I need you to do the, I need you to set up your Apple developer account first before I can add you to our developer account here on campus. And it's free, by the way, it doesn't cost anything. University developer license is what you guys are going to be having. Waives a $99 fee. Students and faculty can develop apps with this. The one thing you can't do, though, is sell them on the App Store. So everything up to selling on the App Store you can do. You can share with each other up to 250 users. In fact, Apple has opened up in the last 6 months. You really technically don't have to do this anymore. You can develop an app, not get, well, you have to get an Apple ID still, but you don't have to join a developer. You do not have to join the developer group, and you can share your apps with anybody. And they just have to have Xcode, and they can run, you know, plug their phone in and install it on their device. And they call that side loading, by the way, which we'll talk about this semester. Developer program is for you. Which one's for you? For this class, we'll be using the developer program for universities. It's free. The next one is, I'll start on the left there, iOS developer program individual. It's $99 a year. And what it allows you to do is develop and distribute apps on the App Store. That's both for the iPhone, iPad, and the Apple TV, and the Watch. All 4 platforms you can develop on. I just released, my first Watch app was, you guys remember the memory game with the 4 colors where you could tap? I didn't know, I've always loved that game. So I created one for that, for the Watch. I'm getting ready to push it to the Apple TV. And so it allows all those platforms to be published to with the $99 a year fee. The company version is for company level, for apps you create for internal company apps that you go creating for distribution on the App Store. Sorry, this one's for company apps that you want to publish to the App Store. $99 for that one. So like say Sears, JCPenney, place like that, $99 a year for them to get an app out. Now, if you're wanting to do an enterprise level of the apps that will not really make the App Store, not designed for the App Store, but for in-house apps, that's the $299 a year. And you can do it unlimited apps for that company. And what you do on that one is, it's kind of cool. When you finish developing an app, you just send a link to everybody in your domain and your all users, or whoever's going to use it. They click on the link. By using their email with that domain extension, it allows them to install that app on their phone or their iPad immediately. Never makes the App Store. What's cool about it as well is when I do an update, it'll automatically update it as if it is on the App Store. So it has hooks in there to determine if there's a new version and things like that. The difference on the enterprise version is the code and everything is stored on a server for that company versus in Cupertino, California. The Mac does have some licensing as well. You can do individual or company for Mac, both $99, and that's for developing apps for the Mac, which we won't be going over in this class. But again, it's one of those program languages, and it's one of the features of the next code that you do have an option to create apps for the Mac. We just won't be doing that in this class, but it is well worth looking into and playing with, that's for sure. So you can develop hardware-wise. You can develop without an iOS device, meaning an iPad or iPhone. I will be giving out loaners, by the way, of iPads and iPhone, or iPads starting mid-semester when you guys start playing with your final apps and stuff. You cannot begin development, though, without a Mac. You have to have a Mac, whether in here, I help you install on your laptop, or at home. Make sense? You have to have a Mac. You can bring your Mac to class, so if you have a MacBook that you use, you can, if you want to start bringing that next week, if you want to, and use that in place of the one in front of you. I would recommend for the for students to use the RVC Wi-Fi here in the building. That's the one you want to connect to. It's a much faster one than the guest and much better bandwidth and download speeds. We use Swift for developing iOS apps. And here's some newest features of iOS 9 that we're currently on in the iOS world. They have a new feature called Night Shift for iPhone. It basically helps the phone sleep better, and kind of, there's been issues with sometimes locking up or kind of choppy sleep mode. Encryption in the iCloud is now available. Verizon users can do Wi-Fi calling. AT&T's had it for a while, but Verizon didn't. New 3D Touch has what's called Quick Actions, where you press and hold the screen, and it gives you new options quickly, or new menus. Private iPhone notes. It's basically taking notes in the iOS and adding a thumbprint for encryption, to where you have to use your passcode or a thumbprint to get into notes, so you can encrypt your notes. And then iCloud for iBooks, for books you download, can be now stored on the iCloud for multiple devices. Better health features and tracking in iOS 9. And then upgraded Apple CarPlay, because a number of manufacturers are now integrating iOS into their car navigation, and the entire ecosystem of a car electronics. And for educational purposes, they've actually added on the iPad multi-user options where you can log in and out of an iPad, which is kind of cool for like K through 12 to use. And then support for multiple watches. So if you have multiple watches, you can have one device connect to multiple watches. Photos has some new live photo features where you press and hold a photo and it gives you a few moments before and after the photo. You can now share that with via text message and some other ways you can share now. iPhone tracking alerts. This is a new feature. Well, actually, not a new feature. It's an advanced feature that they've made some changes to. Meaning, if you work for a company and they give you an iPhone, they've always been able to trace where you're at. Now they can trace what you're doing on the phone. So where you're searching and all that stuff can be traced. And the difference is now Apple's built into the feature that says, oh, by the way, you are being watched. It kind of alerts you to let you know that. It's kind of warns you about it. And so it's always been there for corporate in the last couple of versions, but now they alert users. And then music changes, some music changes have happened. So here's Swift. It's performance-wise much faster than Objective-C. It's just because it's a newer language. They built a new engine for it, for 3D graphics, for like all the new gaming companies, all the existing gaming companies that develop apps for iPad and iPhone. Love the new 3D engine that they built into it, and it's a much faster processor because of it. But Swift, because they kind of built it around Swift, is going to be much faster in Objective-C because everything Apple's doing now, as far as hardware-wise, is geared to help work in tandem with Swift and the new changes in Swift, which makes sense because it's a language they're actually pushing the most now. Not that they don't support Objective-C still, but it's just not pushed as much as Swift. It's modern. Like I told you, 2014, it's 2016. It's only been out a few years. So you're really learning along myself. I mean, changes are still happening in Swift and still occurring. It's interactive. You'll find out here in just a second. You can play around with Swift in a thing called Playground that we're going to use tonight and begin to experiment with results of things. So number results, algorithms, even images over time. So say you want to determine what a balloon does over time on an app, in Swift Playground, you can now actually, with a little slider, forward fast an app back and forth to see what something does with an algorithm you put in there. So it's very interactive, very easy to use in that feature. Key parts of Swift, the declaration and implementation are in the same file. If you remember the Objective-C days for some of you, or even in C++, you have this. You have different files for the app to run. In C++, you got the .cpp file, the .header file. In Swift, you had a .h file and a .m file in Objective-C. Now you just have a .swift file that you can share and compile on any Mac OS that has Xcode. The project size is largely reduced with Swift, and I think that has a lot to do with code has changed a little bit, and the rendering of how things are done has changed a little bit. Swift also auto-detects data types. So you do not have to declare data types in Swift. It'll auto-detect that data type by what that variable is declared as. So if you declare a variable with as a number, it's going to say it's an integer by default. If you put quotes around something, it's going to say it's a string by default. Okay. The code does not use semicolons. C++ does. If you took that language, a lot of languages do. So variables in Swift are like this. Here's an example. Var name, string equals Jane Doe. You could also do, though, var name equals Jane Doe and leave out the string. Either one. With the newest version of Swift, they recommend this way of doing it, just to determine, okay, as a developer, this is a type I'm declaring it as. For an integer, var year, and the word var, by the way, is the same for all variable types that we're talking about so far. We'll talk about different other types of declarations. But VAR, if you can just remember, VAR is a short for variable. VAR year, :int equals 2014. Now when you call year later on down the code, it's going to use it. It's going to show 2014 as that value for year. Now, so far we've just used name and year. Those are just names you made up as a developer. And you want those names to make sense to what the use is for. And so just remember that. We'll go over a little exercise in just a second. Var is fast. Bool, meaning true or false. Constants. Whenever var, it's variable. Let is a constant. LET is a constant, meaning it can be changed. So once you declare something as a let, as a constant, it can be changed. So let name string equals Jane Doe. Let year int 2014. Let is fast bool true. All those are the exact same as we did before, except instead of var, it's let. The difference is once you declare something as a let, and you downstream, you try to redeclare it. So if I try to take name below the let name string Jane Doe and did name equals in quotes Chuck Conkle, it would give me an error and say you can't do that. You've already declared it. It's a constant. And constants would be good for like tax rate. Constants are good for like percentage rates, and aren't going to change in your code, right? And so that's just some examples of between variables and constants. Strings, when you declare a string, just remember it's in quotes, that the variable values in quotes. If you're wanting to add in some space in a line of text, you basically would take and put the variable, so this would be first string equals hello, it's hello, plus empty quotes just for aesthetics, world. If you didn't put this here, hello and world will be all shoved together when you view it on the screen. That makes sense? So the empty quotes, or the quotes with one space in it, is just for aesthetics, and it's going to print hello world. If I left out the space in the empty quotes, then it would all be shoved together. Arrays, arrays in coding and programming always start with a 0, and then go to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You've done arrays in simple math, but arrays can both be declared, are generally declared as a variable type, meaning it can be changed, but it can also be declared as a constant. This one here is a variable type, meaning it could be changed, and it's called type list. It's a string. And the only difference between this string and the last one is the 2 brackets, the left and right bracket, and then equals, and then in brackets, the contents of that array. In this case, it's yes, no, and cancel. So like a menu or something that an app might have. Next, where it says type list plus equals OK, all you're doing here is adding to the existing type list an OK menu. So if you wanted to do some other things with arrays, and again, you're not going to be testing on this, it's just kind of an overview. If you want to insert an array at a certain location, you can do that with this insert later, add index 0. It'll actually put later in front of everything now, because 0 is going to be the very first number in an array. If you want to remove something at an index, you just declare it like that. It's going to remove 0, which is later. And the last one, if you want to append later, it's going to append it at the very end of that, which is at the end of that string of arrays. Functions, or called tuples in Swift, is basically in code returning more than one value. So here we have let result, and this 404 you might have heard if you've ever taken any web classes or done any web development. Something's not found on a search. This would be a good example. Same thing though on the next one, let code equals result.0. It would only pull in the left one, which is 0. If it was 1, result.1, which is the last one, it's going to pull in not found on that array for that function. If statements are really simple in Swift, much like Java and other languages you've probably seen if you've taken other languages. But basically, we have an if statement with the logic, the argument, if val is equal to 0, then some code occurs, some function, some action. Else, if that value maybe is equal to 1, it does something else. Switch is basically a where clause in code. So this is determining the color within a function. Switch RGB, case let RGB, where R is equal to G and G is equal to B, print gray. And then it's going to kick out a print line called color. At the end of the switch, they also have another example here of a while loop. A while loop basically just takes and while something's not finished, it's going to put some code here. A for loop, this example here, those of you at C++, maybe remember this. One of the first exercises in C++, the for loop is like this. For var equals 0, while I is less than 10, it's going to increment by 1. So it's going to keep looping until it reaches basically 9. So 0 to 9, which is going to be 10 iterations. It'll loop. So let's now start with some playgrounds here. Before we do, I want you to, we're going to do it old-fashioned first, old school first. Then I'll have you download something second to kind of go through. So if you'll go to our course real quick in Eagle, I do have some code, place for you to go. The easiest way for you to get there, to kind of jump forward, is we go into our class, go down to modules in Eagle, and find week 1, and find in-class exercise. And I'm highlighting on the overhead right now. So week 1, week in-class exercise. As soon as you find in-class exercise under week 1, go ahead and click on that in-class exercise. And there should be a zip file on bullet point number 3 where it says download and open concal.zip. Does everybody see that on yours? Yeah. If you click on that link, it should automatically download it. It might take a second. You'll do like mine did here. If you're new to Mac, so just put it here in the bottom of the browser. You just let it set there for right now. Okay. So just click on that link to where it downloads it. And by the way, on a Mac environment, to get around real quick, let me just show you something real quick that's going to help you. If you notice on the very left portion here of the Mac, this little weird looking face here, the Finder. If you click on the Finder, if everybody will click on that after you've already clicked on that download link. If you click on the Finder, it's going to show you all the files on your Mac, and it'll actually go to all my files by default, I believe, on these. Is I'm not mistaken, right, on yours? All my files right here. But notice it also has an ability to go to downloads. So on the left side, if you click on downloads, that's the one that you just downloaded right there. Does everybody see that? So again, I clicked on the Finder icon here on my Mac and then clicked on downloads. And this is a little different than Windows. To extract this zip file, in Windows, you have to right click and uncompress it. In a Mac, all you've got to do is double click on that file and it'll decompress it for you automatically. Okay? That's all you got to do. And we're not going to open that one yet, but just you could double click on that zip file if you wanted to, just to, extract that playground that we're going to do in a second. Okay, so kind of keep that there. At the bottom of your Mac screen is a whole bunch of icons. The one we're going to click on is the Xcode icon, which, let me get rid of this. It looks like this right here. This one right here, my mouse is over. So it looks, so click on that one. When you hover over it, it'll say Xcode. When Xcode's finished running, which it shouldn't take too long, you'll actually see at the very top of your Mac, the word Xcode will show up at the very top of your computer monitor. Everybody see that? Now do this for me real quick. I want to make sure everybody's on the right version. When you see Xcode show up, click on the Xcode text and then click About Xcode for me. And you should have version 7.3.1. Does everybody have that? Everybody not have that? All right, cool. All right, so what you want to do is go to the File menu, next to Xcode, the File menu, then New, then Playground. And it's going to come up with this choose option for New Playground. I want you to type in your last name instead of where it says My Playground. Type in your last name. The platform, it should already be iOS, but just so you can see the other versions you can do this with, you can click the drop down with me if you want to. You could do OS X. We could also do tvOS, which would be the Apple TV, okay? But we're going to select iOS, last name iOS, then click Next. We're going to save this to your desktop. And so on the left side of this screen, if you click on Desktop, underneath Favorites, that's the one you want. And then as soon as you click on Desktop, click Create right here, where next to the Cancel button. And here in just a second, it's going to start up, and this should show up here on your screen. It says Playground Now, a place where people can play. Then it should be spinning right now. It should say running your last name. Mine says running Conkle. If your last name's Smith, it should say running Smith. Just let it do its stuff right now. Don't touch anything. What it's doing right now is compiling the Swift compiler. And here in just a second, it's going to show up on the right side in that gray area. It should show up Hello Playground in just a little bit. Once it shows up on the right side in that little gray area right here, the very top, we can actually start doing stuff. But while it's doing that, let's talk about Swift Playground. Swift Playground is a cool feature within Swift that allows developers, old and new, to kind of figure out what something's going to do before you use it in your code, really, and a real quick way to do it. So it's great for new students because you can learn what variables do, how to declare a variable, how to show a variable, how to do calculations, how to do if statements, how to do while statements, all within Swift Playground without actually starting a new app project. You're just kind of doing within the code. And so the panes within Swift are on the left side is the code part. You'll notice at the top it says Import UI Kit. That's a user interface kit. The input user UI stands for user interface kit. And it's going to import all the needed stuff for Swift to run. The next line is the very first line of code in Swift Playground, which is already done for you, which it declares a variable called str, and it's a declarative type less variable, meaning there's no type in here. It's being defined by to the right of the equal symbol. So we have var str equals hello playground. And by now, hopefully, I talked long enough to where Hello Playground showed up, hopefully, on your computers. Everybody have that happen? Okay, what we're going to do now is, remember that file I had you download to help expedite our lab here. I want you to go click on the smiley face again on the left side, the Finder. Go to your download section. If you're not already there, click on Downloads. And double-click on that conkle.zip if you didn't already earlier. And then you should see a file right above that that just says Conkle, and the kind is Xcode Playground. I'll actually tell you it's Xcode Playground. If you just double-click on that file, it's going to say, oh, by the way, you download this from the web. Are you sure you want to open it? Yes, we do. So click Open. And now this is going to open up into Playground again as a separate file. And here in just a moment, it shouldn't take us long because the compiler's already done its stuff with our first one. But you should see on the right, Hello Playground, Chuck Conkle. If we keep scrolling down, it'll say 25, 25, 47, 46. My name is Chuck Conkle. And by the way, if you do this for me real quick, take your mouse and hover over that line there. It's kind of an invisible line. When you hover over it, it'll turn to this icon here on the overhead. If you press and hold your mouse, you can move that line to the left a little bit to where you can see all that text on one line. So you can kind of adjust that accordingly. So we've got some output here on the right. That's what this is, by the way. And on the left is the code. We're going to start, first of all, having you do where it says type in correct info on lines 11 through 13. Right now, you're not going to see the lines 11 through 13, so I'm not going to turn them on right now, so don't worry about it. But where it says student name, your full name, in place of your full name, put your name, first and last name. And I'll do it with you. Today's date, you can just do 8.22.16 is fine. And then you can leave CIS280 as it is. Now we're going to go over some notes. You just kind of look at the screen. You can look at your screen. It might be a little easier to look at my screen because it's kind of small. And we're going to go over some notes real quick. These are some stuff we already went over a little bit. Just kind of a recap. But these are notes. The first note I want to go over is the word comments. Okay? In all types of coding language, you can make comments. And they're basically to put in your code what this code's doing. If I give you my code without any comments, you're going to be like, yeah, and what's this for? Without actually running the app. You should actually see in the code what the app's doing before you ever run it. Does that make sense? So if I add a new feature to an application, I'm going to put in a comment above that feature in code what that feature is. It doesn't have to be anything exhaustive. Say it's a feature to load the homepage of the company. There you go. Homepage of company loads here. And that's how I use a comment. The comment, there's two types of comments you can do in Swift. There's the single line comment, which is the 2 lines by itself, the 2 slashes. The multi-line comment uses a single slash and 2 asterisks, then your stuff on multiple lines, then it ends with 2 asterisks slash. Make sense? So you'll notice an example here I gave you of the word multi-line comment right there. If I could take your mouse and put it at the end of multi-line, the word multi-line, in between right last after letter E, and then click the return key, it's going to let you make multiple lines of comments. That way you don't have to keep doing, one of these on all of your comments. You don't have to keep doing this on every line on multi-line comments. Does that make sense? So multi-line comment, single line comment. You say, well, how do you know what to use? By the definition. If it's a single line comment, use the double slash. If it's a multi-line comment, use the slash asterisk asterisk, then put whatever content you want in there, the multi-lines, and then just end it with asterisk asterisk slash. Simple, right? So you have single comment, multi-line comment. Variables we went over already a little bit, but the variable types you can have in Swift are string, double, float, bool, int. Variables cannot start with a number. That's one of the rules. You can't start like, say if it's age, the word age we're going to use tonight. Couldn't do the number 1 age. That wouldn't work. When declaring variables, use var as a prefix, and then the type variable would be like str, dbl for double, fl for float, bl for boolean, int for int. And you'll see some examples here in a second. So in examples of an implicit type, meaning it's not declared in the type itself, it's implicit, is var str full name equals Chuck Conkle. Okay? Just by sheer value of Chuck Conkle to the right of the equal sign, Swift's going to make this str full name a string type. Example of an explicit type will be the next one. Var str years old colon int equals 25. Example of a constant variable. Now, here I want you to do this. Replace your real age with the 25. You might be 25, but if you're not, change it to what it is. As soon as you click the line below with your mouse, it should see the change on the output there immediately, hopefully. And one of the quirky things I noticed with Swift Playground is, just so you know when you're playing with it this week, is if you have any errors anywhere within the code, which we'll do one here in a second, sometimes the compiling below that error, in fact, a lot of times, the compiling below that error will not work. That's normal, okay? So if you mess something up, which we'll do on purpose here in a second, everything below that line will sometimes not show up, okay? So let's do this. We're going to get ready to do this. Notice where it says uncomment below, error if try to reassign constant. That's because it's trying to reassign a constant. So where it says int age equals 35, get rid of the 2 slashes before int age. Click the line below, and you'll see a little red dot show up right to the left. If you click on that dot, it'll tell you why it's erroring out. It says cannot assign to value int age is a let constant. Do you want to fix it? It'll say change let to var to make it mutable. Go ahead and click on that where it says fix it. Click on that line, that blue background white text. Actually double click on it. If you double click on it, it actually went up to the line where it was declared as int age and changed it from let to var. That's a really nice feature that Swift does. And a lot of times it'll do that for you if you make mistakes like that. It'll kind of tell you, oh, by the way, but there might be times where it tells you that and you're like, oh, I want it to be a constant, right? And you're not going to let it fix it for you. Does that make sense? But that is a nice feature. So we did change our my age is 47 originally. Now we've changed it to 46, and you'll see it on the output that it changed it accordingly. Now we're going to talk about showing variable formats in a string. Basically on this one is just, we've talked about variables, right? And I'm highlighting what we're getting ready to talk about. Instead of it's actually it's called backward slash, the one we've been talking about. This one's called forward slash. It's forward slash, your variable name in quotes is what we're going to use to show that in a string of text, all right? So an example of that would be this. If we're going to put variables together in a string, here's a variable, str my age equals, starting quote, my name is, and then backward slash, str full name in parentheses, and my age is str years old in parentheses with backward slash. And that's how you concatenate a variables within a string. Put them all together. And you'll see on the right, it shows you that. My name is Chuck Conkle and my age is 25. Now, str years old, we could play with that just a little bit here. Let's see here. Let's replace str years old with int my age. It should show up the latest change, which is your age, in that spot now. Now let's also change up further a little bit where it says str full name. If you look up on your code, find where my name is, Chuck Conkle, and replace it with your name. So I'm highlighting on the overhead now. It's at the top of your code, towards the top anyway. Var str full name equals, replace Chuck Conkle with your first and last name. And then now you should see, once you've done that, that change is reflected in that example of putting the variables together in a string. And so it should show up here. Now to print stuff out, we used to be able to do what's called a \n for new line, right? We can't do that anymore. Or we could, but you have to do other things, which really don't need to do it. All you do now is just use multiple versions of print and parentheses. And so an example of a new line now is this here, where it says my name is, and then str full name on one line. I want something on another line. I use another print statement. And whatever I put in the parentheses there is going to show up. So it's going to show up, my name is Chuck Conkle, and my age is 25. Let's do this. I want you to replace str years old with the one that's your real one, at my age. Now, if you misspelled it like I just did, or not misspelled it, but I didn't use a caps for A and age, it's not going to work. So it is very syntax oriented in uppercase, lowercase. Then it should print out correct again. Next one, which says my name is str full name and my age is, change that to int my age. So now the in-class exercise hopefully is pretty simple. You're going to declare a string variable for your favorite food. And one of the things I didn't hit on, we talked about, I touched at the very top, is when you're declaring a variable name, put the var, and then before the name of the variable, put the type of what it is. So this one's an integer, so an int. It's a string, str. So declare a string variable for your favorite food. So we're going to start with what word for that? The very first word is going to be what? For variable. var. var space, and I told you to make it a string. So we know we need an str something. So what would be a good name for, I'll help you with this first one. What would be a good name for a favorite food for a variable name? Or something short, kind of. Fave food, there you go. So str fave food would work. So if I did var str fave food, that would be great. And I want you to also put to the right of that a value. So whatever your favorite food is. I put in my example here, ribeye steak. So not only declare the variable, put the value in there too. So if you're going to put var str fave food equals whatever your favorite food is in quotes, go ahead and do that. And then go ahead and do on your own the next two. Declare a string variable for your favorite color, and then declare an integer variable for your favorite number. And then once you'll do that, we're going to have you combine all three variables to show them in a print format, line by line, printing 3 lines. Either my favorite food is, my favorite color is, and my favorite number is. So go ahead and do that. Give you a few moments, and I'll help you with the answer if you need help. You're going to kind of help grade your own here and get it done. And as you're typing in these variables, and you should see it show up eventually on the right side as an output. Unless you make a mistake on something when you're typing. And that can happen. If you need help with upcoming live, let me know. I can definitely help you. Yeah, one of the things you're going to have to do, and I didn't mention this, for things to show up right, you're going to have to uncomment the comment. So notice I have in-class exercise. If you declare something right here, it's not going to show up because this is all a comment here. So you could make a real, uncomment this, or just, make it a 2/ comment instead. Does that make sense? So you could do this right here. Let me show you. You could actually just put a 2/ comment there, comment there, comment there. Just get rid of the multi-line comment and add in single line comments. There you go. So basically you're making everything a single line comment for that to show up for you anyway. Thank you for bringing that up. You mentioned that. Take your time. You're doing good. You're doing good. Watch some of your variable names. Oh yeah, it takes a bit. If you go down to exercise. Exercise. Slash 2 asterisks and replace with these 2 slashes. And then do the same with that line, that line. Once you're finished, you should see an output there. Much like the example that I gave here, which I put my favorite food is ribeye steak, my favorite color is green, my favorite number is 7. That's what you want your output to be. And you're going to use to do that a combination of print command and the print format for the / variable name and parentheses. And then just print them out separately, all 3 lines. If you've already finished that, you can kind of keep playing with it if you want to. I'm going to go over it in just a moment. I'll give you a couple more minutes to finish it. If you don't finish it all in a couple minutes, don't worry about it. I'll walk you through it real quick. If you're already finished with it, you can kind of play with them a little bit more if you want to. Maybe change, instead of a variable type, maybe change it to a constant type or something and try to change it to kind of see if it lets you change it downstream. Or you can just sit there and wait. About another minute here, I'm going to give you a minute and a half, and then we're going to do mine here on the overhead. And you can go along with me. Well, those of you who are done, one thing you can do is on the comment line, on the output lines, if you hover over the output line, there actually is a little eye. If you click on the quick look line of that little eye, it'll actually pop up. If it's a, it'll show you exactly what the code is for that, especially when you get into numeric, like equations and things. Right now, it's probably not going to show much because it's all strings. To the right of that eye, there is a little circle. If you click on that circle to the right of the eye on the output, it does show you the results below the code, in the actual code view itself, without the quotes. Actually, as it will look in an app without the quotes, like it does here. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Let's see the var. Here's an example. These are just examples of what we did earlier. For the first one, var str fave food. Anybody use something else besides fave food? Str fave food. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and put in here ribeye. Spell it right. Steak. Okay, what do you guys use for color, favorite color? STR what? Color, all right. And mine is green. And favorite number, what do you guys use? Somebody else. INT what? Int fave number, right? And I'm going to put 7. Then to combine all 3, I'm going to use a print statement, print, left parentheses, and to be quicker here, I'm going to use my text I already have here. Left parentheses, beginning quote, my favorite food is. In place of that, I'm going to do the / and then the name of the variable. In this case is str food, parentheses. That shows up here at the top. Click on that, see what it looks like. There we go. And I'm going to copy and paste print for the next couple lines to be a little faster. And that's another thing you'll be doing this semester a lot is this here to make things a little quicker. Instead of having to retype everything, you just have to now type in the correct variables. If you go slow enough, I know in Playground doesn't do as good a job as when you're in Swift in an app. It'll actually remember the name of your variable and pop it up as you're typing it. If it's slow enough in here, it probably would, but I'm probably going too fast. So int fave number for the last one. Now it's all green, it's checking out good. So pretty simple, right? Now that's what I want you to do to give me what you've got right now. If you'll click on the file menu, everybody, regardless of where you're at, go and do this. Click on the file menu and then click save. And then click on the file menu and close Playground. And then click on Xcode, quit Xcode. And then remember the smiley face earlier? Click on the smiley face, Finder. Go to that file, Concal. I take it back. We don't want to go to Concal. Go to Desktop. Go to Desktop, and you should see yourname.playground in there on Desktop. Everybody see that? If you control on your Mac, if you press the left control key and hold it on your keyboard, press and hold the left control key, then click on yourname.playground, this menu will pop up. And basically what we just did on the Mac keyboard is a right-click equivalent on a Windows mouse, okay? So we want to go down and select compress yourlastname.playground, and it's going to zip that together. The reason we need to zip it together, Eagle doesn't like a .playground file type. It just will a lot of times just say, don't like it, and won't let you upload it. That file there is the one you're going to upload into in-class exercise. So in the in-class exercise, on the right side, I think you guys should be able to upload that file. So go ahead and do that. And I'll come around and help those who need it. Uploading. It should accept that. Make sure you select the zip file. There you go. It should say successful when you're done. Just go ahead and so go back to the bottom. And trust in the assignment. Let's go back down to use it. Okay, so what you want to do is control click on this. Do it outside. Control. Anybody else have the uploading? Okay, so you've successfully created your very first Swift playground, and for most of you, first time in Swift. So good job. I'm going to forward faster on the slides. Talk about what's called the 80-20 rule when it comes to developing. 80% of the outcome comes from 20% of your inputs. 20% of code manages 80% of businesses in a business app. 20% of total productivity of software developing produces 80% of results. 20% of bugs fixes 80% of software bug-free. So focus on your app's features and meet the needs of the greatest number of people. That's what I do, or yourself including, or your business you're working for, whatever. And you'll always kind of use apps and create apps that mean something to you. And we'll talk more about the next couple of weeks, but you know, that's why I have students in week 2 or 3 begin creating their own app idea, because it's so important, I think, to create apps that you want and that you could use, because otherwise you lose interest. Because we can do canned apps each week, which I've done before, and for most students, they just kind of lose the zeal of doing anything because it doesn't really mean anything to them. But if it's an app that means something to you, each week you can begin adding to your app, your final app, something that you could actually use. And other people can test that app as well. That's the cool thing about it. So we did the in-class exercise together. By next Monday, you need to create your Apple ID, and the steps are in week 1. After you create your Apple ID, I'll kind of get that in Eagle. I will send everybody a developer invite by next Wednesday. I'll kind of give you a little lead time there. So by next Wednesday, I'll send you a developer invite. Complete the About Me in week 1. If you have an iPhone or iPad, there's an area to submit a UDID. Or if you have family and friends that you're going to also test your apps this semester, you can submit their UDID as well. And what I will do is take all that information and put it in our Apple developer team. That way, when you guys create an app, they can install it on their phone or iPad and start playing with it. By Sunday, there's a Hello application. All it is a different variation of what we did in class. Is the one due by Sunday. It is a Swift playground. The top portion's about the same as what we went over today. The bottom portion's a little different in what I'm having you do, and that's it. By next Monday, there will be a pod. There's already one from last time in week 2. You can watch that one, but there'll be a new one in there by Wednesday this week for week 2. And read the announcements for week 2 before coming to class. Do reading for week 2. You'll see in week 2 the reading that's available, and it's all online. And do that before you come to class. And that is the end of session 1 for CIS280. If you didn't get a chance to check in up here, come and see me before you leave. Also, if you want to volunteer for the hour of code this Saturday, that'd be awesome. That'd be great. 1 or 2 would be perfect. And it's just an hour from 9 to 10 in this classroom. It's a no-brainer. It's a lot of fun. And you get to help young and old kind of create a game and share it with each other. And we've been doing it since December of 2015. And we have about 20 a month show up in this classroom. And so it's a lot of fun. So anyway, come up and see me if you want to volunteer with that. And then I did give everybody the username and password for the computers in here. By tomorrow, when I get the official day and times, I will email everybody when the lab times are. And I've asked them to give Monday through Friday, 8 to 8 p.m., any open times, and you guys will have that, okay? The lab is open Saturday from like 8 to noon, I think, 8 to 1, something like that. This lab is always open for you unless it is the hour of code, which is the 4th Saturday of the month. It's closed just for 1 hour on that time, okay? Any questions? All right, well, look forward to a great semester. If you have any questions, come see me. Otherwise, I'll see everybody next week. And if you need help with your QR code or you didn't check in with your QR code, if you could come up before you leave, that'd be great.